Hey guys, Doug Pedersen here. Good morning, good afternoon, and good day to all of you wherever you're at in the world. Here I am, week 19, upholding my 52-week commitment to post something of value right here on the Facebook page. So we're talking self-care. We've been talking self-care for months now, and these last few weeks we've been talking about the mental domain of part of the modern self-care model. And it's really thoughts, right? Are we having positive thoughts or negative thoughts? We know that we have 60 to 80,000 of them a day, and we want to master those thoughts, take control of those thoughts, and put them in the positive column so that we can generate an overwhelming momentum, a mass of positive energy that will show up in other parts of us and help us feel better and do better. All right, so today's question is really about fear. And what I want to know is, what do you do when fear shows up? You know, how do you respond when that skin rippling fear creeps into your brain? You know, that kind of fear that makes your hair stand up on end or makes you just pause, you know, and be paralyzed and stuck. How do you respond to that kind of fear? These are thoughts. So as you think about that question, I want to tell you a quick story. All right. So some of you know that over 25 years ago, I was in the Marine Corps. And one of the things that you do in recruit training in the Marine Corps is called the confidence course. And all the confidence course is this massive obstacle course of massive structures, okay, that's out in this wide open field. So just imagine like a tarmac or an airport runway, you know, this dirt. And out there in this huge space, you have these massive structures that are, you know, 20, 30 feet high and stuff, and just these big logs and, you know, wood structures. And, you know, they've got names like Highway to Heaven, you know, and one of them is called the Slide for Life. Okay, so I remember going out there with my platoon and my drill instructors for the confidence course and getting in front of the Slide for Life, which is a 25-foot tower, climb straight up like a big ladder, 25 feet up. And at the top of this tower is a platform where several people can stand, and there's several cables hooked up to the top of this 25-foot tower. The cable is 90 feet long, and it goes all the way to the ground, kind of like a zip line, if you know what that is. But a 90-foot cable goes all the way to the ground from 25 feet up down to, 5 feet. And under this cable is like a pit of water, a big pit of water that's deep. Not a pool of water because you're outside, but a pit of water. So that if you fall, even from the top at 25 feet, you're not going to die. You're going to get wet. You're probably going to be scared a little bit, but you're not going to die. Okay? And so I remember, in true Marine fashion, at the Slide for Life, they give you instructions, very clear, tactical techniques on how to complete the Slide for Life. Then they demonstrate it. These are the drill instructors. They demonstrate it, and then they expect you to do it and master it and do it over and over again until, it's just part of you. And so there were techniques to how to climb this tower and then how to mount the cable. You had to go down head first. At first, position the cable a certain way down your center line, do a certain type of pulling, breathing a certain way, and then halfway down the cable, you had to hang and then swing your feet up and then go down feet first, okay? Now you can imagine this is really not something most people have ever done before, especially 18 and 19-year-olds from the city, and there's a lot of fear involved with people with their heights, with swimming, and just hanging over this cable and going down head first. And so anyway, longer story short, I remember getting to the top when it was my turn, getting to the top of this tower, and there were drill instructors at each cable. And the instructions were get to the top, stay back until the drill instructor says mount the cable, because that means it's clear and it's your turn. And when he says mount the cable, you go. You go down, you don't stop moving, you put yourself in position, and you just slowly and methodically move yourself down that cable, because that's your only way of making it. If you hesitate, if you stop pulling, if you start thinking about it, that's when you start wobbling, and that's when you fall from this little tiny 1-inch or 2-inch cable that is basically your Slide for Life, okay? Well, I remember getting to the top, and the recruit next to me, who had already gone up ahead of me and was there, he was completely paralyzed. He was at the position of attention, and the drill instructor's yelling at him, mount the cable, what's wrong with you, recruit? He would not go. He would not go, all right? Now, I didn't have time, it's not like it's a casual environment, so I'm sitting there looking at him and saying, oh my gosh, what's going on with Jones or whatever. I'm in my own zone, and I've got my own drill instructor yelling at me. But I remember this recruit for several moments vividly, just paralyzed. This is called immobility. All right. Now there was only two ways down this cable or down this obstacle, and they both involved the cable. There's only two ways down. Either you slid down successfully the way they had taught you, or you attempted to slide down and you fell down into the water. All right. There was no climbing down. There's no climbing down. There was only one way down, and that's with the cable, either dry or wet. And so it's this second recruit that I want to focus on. It's this immobility, that I want us to look at, because immobility, whether we recognize it or not, hopefully we recognize it in ourselves, and the more we pay attention to it, any form of immobility is really an indicator of our fear or of areas where we need to grow. All right. Anywhere in our lives where we're immobile, all right, this is a self-care opportunity. In this case, the recruit's completely immobile about the exercise. Who knows what he's thinking? He's probably thinking, I don't know how to swim, or this cable's scary, or this guy who's yelling in my face and spitting on me to get me to go down this thing is really scary. Whatever he's thinking, it wasn't the techniques, right? It wasn't the training that they had given us to get down the obstacles successfully, even with no experience. That's the whole thing about techniques, is they work if you apply them because other people have perfected them. The techniques, if you follow them in most things, are strategies that are winning. And there was a way to do this obstacle, and there was a way not to do the slide for life. Okay, so think about immobility. Okay, the question was, how do you show up when fear presents itself, or how do you respond when fear presents itself? When you are paused, when you're immobile. Okay, we want to avoid immobility, because when we're immobile, we don't feel good, right? It doesn't feel good to be immobile or scared, out of your britches, or afraid to say something that needs to be said, or afraid to do something that needs to be done. Now, that doesn't feel good. And when we get in that spot, we feel undue stress. Undue stress can have chemical reactions in the body that age us and fatigue us and zaps our energy. So I'm not saying we're never going to be immobile in life, but we want to get out of that spot as soon as possible. We want to get out of immobility and get into mobility in all the areas of life so that we can really live and so that we can really grow. And when we really grow, we have something to give so that we can serve and that we can contribute. It's very, very important that we find the areas where we're immobile and use strategies, use techniques, use our mind to focus on something else that's more empowering to move us forward. Okay? So as it turns out, I completed the exercise, or completed the slide for life successfully. It was scary. I wasn't sure in the beginning how it was going to turn out, but I was determined to focus on what the training had taught me, to repeat the mantras that the drill instructors had said. They were really just the basic instructions. When you get up there, mount the cable, lean forward, position it in your body, pull slowly, breathe deeply, don't stop moving. That's all. I just kept repeating that to myself. And before you know it, I was halfway down and they said, switch! And I hung and I threw my legs up, and then it was easy. I just slid back down. And when I got to the bottom of that cable, I felt like I was 25 feet tall, because again, several moments before, I didn't know how it was going to turn out. That built confidence. That moved me from potential immobility to extreme mobility. Okay, and that's what they're trying to teach in the Marine Corps, is never stop moving, is to always take action and to do stuff. And there's a reason for that. Okay, does that mean that I've never been immobile? No, absolutely not. In the 10 years prior to that, there were plenty of times, especially if you know my story, where I was immobile. Okay, there's been times after that, as I've grown other parts of my character, grown into a man, tried to mature, been in business, have a wife, have kids. There's plenty of areas where I've been immobile and had to push through and grow in a way to learn new skills or learn past the fear to where those things aren't as scary anymore. Okay? And so that's the key point. Look for immobility in your life, because immobility is an indicator for improvement. Once you've identified that and you're honest with yourself and say, these are, at work, these are the types of phone calls that I should be able to make if I'm in sales, or with your spouse, right? Your wife or your girlfriend. There's conflict there. You need to talk it out and communicate more, but you're not, because you're scared or you don't know what to say, or you think she's going to react a certain way. That's immobility. You need to grow your maturity. You need to grow skills to be able to get out of that spot and have the conversations. right? If it's with our eating or our exercise, we know what we're supposed to do, but we're not doing it because of a fear of, well, whatever, how we look, how we might perform, the cost involved in something. You got to grow out of that and get to the point of mobility, okay? So it's about changing your thoughts. It's about focusing on something else, taking your mind off the fearful thoughts like, I can't do it, I'm not good enough, I was born this way, I could never do that, that's too scary. What if they say this or do that? You gotta get out of those thought patterns. That doesn't serve anybody, especially you. It's just an extreme form of selfishness when you think about it. Focus on someone else. Focus on the outcome. Focus on how it's going to serve you and serve someone else. Okay? And you got to live really in the present moment. When we're stuck in fearful thoughts about what could be, what happened, or like the recruit on the tower, being afraid of all the situations, that's not the present moment. We really need to practice present moment awareness. And so you'll find what that means to you. Look for the immobility, right? That's your indicator to improve. The way out of it is to grow with present moment awareness and focusing on what's true. And you need to find your own ways that resonate to be able to do that. What's your growth strategy? All right? I'll tell you mine. For a long time, I've used the phrase, go now, you know how. All right? Go now, you know how. It's just something that I came up with because it resonates with me. And I used that moment, way back when on the Slide for Life as an anchor. And I remember what that was like. I remember that feeling vividly. I remember feeling 25 feet tall where, I just believed that I don't know how this is going to work, but if I go now, I'm going to know how. All right. And I've used that technique a lot of ways at work, in business, to have certain conversations, to make certain sales calls. As I've tried to evolve as a speaker, even do these videos, sometimes it's hard to pick up the phone and have a hard conversation that you're not sure how it's going to work out or how the person's going to respond, or to teach a class with new content that is different for them, but is right in your heart to present, and you might be worried about the outcome. I've felt all those things. Even hitting play on the video, record my first video. Sometimes I had a tendency to overthink, what am I going to say or how am I going to say it, rather than just let it flow. Okay. So when I get in my own head and I start feeling that paralysis, I just change my state and I cut it off by saying, go now, you know how. And it puts me into action. I might stumble, I might flutter a little bit, but eventually I find my flow and I start focusing on whatever the outcome is, on the other person, on the greater good, on the bigger situation, and generally things work out, okay? And I recommend you try that because it might work for you, or it will work for you, or find something that does, okay? All right, so that's immobility. That's how you overcome immobility, and I hope that this helps. All right, guys, that's my time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Remember that the goodness that's in me is the goodness that's in you. You deserve it, so go after it.